Hello, my name is Derek McLeod. I'm an electrical assessor at Hertford College, and I've put together 6 presentations to support electrical apprentices on their City and Guilds 5357 Level 3 qualification, and in particular their requirement to produce workplace evidence. And the title of this slide says Collecting Evidence, and that's what this is about. Some of the others says job write-up. Whichever way you are collecting evidence, and it might be, and I've been consistent in each of the other presentations, looked at the paper book that's available from City and Guilds for their 5357 Level 3 Electrotechnical Qualification Workplace Logbook. If you're using that, you're compiling your evidence in there. Most apprentices are probably with a training provider, a college. They're probably using an electronic portfolio provider software. Basically, the criteria is lifted from the City and Guilds criteria checklists, the workplace logbook. So we're doing the same thing, whether you're recording it in a paper book, but most likely online. Okay, we're still meeting the same standards. If we're doing it online though, and the reason you've got the option probably there to produce audio files, to produce videos, and in fact 115 is a good unit to produce media evidence, not just a job write-up, a reflective account by the apprentice. So this unit 115, apply fault diagnosis and rectification. And I suppose on the electrical apprentice's journey, this will probably represent something that's done some way down that journey timeline. You've probably been a few years in the workplace and at college before you're actually fault finding. And I say that because we're all different. Some of us learn faster than others. Some of us have had more exposure to testing in the workplace than others have had. So it does depend on the individual. The thing I'll say is when should you be collecting evidence is when you're suitably trained. And who gives you that training? Well, your employer, because you learn in the workplace and you learn at college. It could be a combination of the two, but once you're suitably trained and you're competent in that activity, that's when you should be producing evidence on your portfolio. You shouldn't be end loading, okay? So you should be doing this naturally as you progress down your apprenticeship. So in the next slide, we're going to look in more detail at the unit criteria. Okay, so let's look at the unit criteria. It says some ideas, and what I mean by that is some ideas of what it is you might have to do, what it is you might have to say, write about, do a video of, that will help evidence the requirements in Unit 115 and the criteria. And as you see, the criteria, you've also got down the bottom right hand corner, by my little video, minimum supplementary evidence required, which is lifted from the workplace logbook. So there should be some evidence of you carrying out this fault finding. Should be some photographs, copies of test certificates and fault diagnosis reports. So they'll be naturally occurring if you think of the activity. Okay, there's going to be certificates, most likely. If you're fault finding, there want to be evidence of you remedying that fault. So if it's an existing circuit, you'll probably be able to produce a minor works. And remember, a minor works is what we need in Unit 113 anyway. That'll be handy. Photographs of you carrying out the activity, of the test you're going to carry, you know, that will go along to help validate if it is a written testimony, your written testimony, and the fault diagnosis reports. You know, that can be a written note to the client. It could be the actual formal report or just a very informal note to the client about the fault that you've identified and remedied. So let's look at this criteria in more detail. So check it's safe. 1-1. We start pretty much every unit from the point of, are we safe? So check it's safe to carry out fault diagnosis. Guess what I wanted to say for this unit before I get into it is, it's probably one of the units where, if you, as an apprentice will say to me, I don't really do much fault finding. And if you think about it, they're very early on in their electrical career, fault finding will be something that's left down to the more qualified and more senior electrical engineer, electrician on the firm. And you might feel, well, I don't actually get these jobs. But if that activity is going on in your workplace, it's a great opportunity for you to shadow and be mentored by someone who is doing a lot of fault finding. But equally, remember that for Unit 113, where we're testing circuits because we're installing and commissioning new circuits, or we're making alterations or additions to existing, so therefore minor works types of activities, it's quite common to come across faults. Okay, but the first time, is it, when you think about a new installation with everything going on, that someone forgets on a brand new installation to terminate securely, or on a ring main, or any circuit for that matter, that they've forgotten to terminate one socket. It's out of sight, out of mind. So when you do your continuity of conductors, you're not getting an end-to-end reading where you expect it. That's a fault. The fact that you're discovering it when you're commissioning a new circuit doesn't matter. That's still fault finding. So it's still an opportunity for you to produce evidence into this unit, even if you're not going out on dedicated fault finding jobs. We're still employing the same methodology with regards to how we identify the fault, aren't we? So we'll go back to the criteria. Check it's safe to carry out fault diagnosis, because it could be the fault presents a real danger. So just be aware that we can come across hazardous situations. So check it's safe to carry out fault diagnosis. Of course, as an electrician, you're going to make it safe, and it could be, and in an extreme case, okay, where it may not be safe to carry out fault diagnosis. Those are rare, but they do happen, and as an electrician, they would be responsible for identifying where it's not safe, isolating the premises and making the occupier aware, and calling out the supplier. So let's look at 1-2, informing the relevant personnel of the fault diagnosis work. Okay, so that's just about effective communication. So you know there's going to be disruption. It's just communicating clearly. This is what I'm going to do. This is the sequence I'm going to adopt. You know, we might lose power here, we might lose power there. So again, it's what you do. It's ensuring that you put a statement to that effect in the evidence that you present in this unit. Carry out the safe isolation procedure. Okay. Now that may well be that that's exactly the same statement that's in, or requirement that's in 113. So if we're carrying out safe isolation procedure, and you are required to for this unit, it is the procedure. There's no shortcuts. It's the procedure as laid out. Okay, if you remember back to your 101 part of your electrical journey, 5357, practical task A to F, you did it very early on, safe isolation at college. If you're doing it in the workplace, great. The safe isolation procedure is the full procedure. Don't take a shortcut. Don't think that you can save time by writing fewer words, it needs to be verbatim. And if anyone's got access to the book 2, Electrical Installations, Level 3 Apprenticeship by Peter Tanner on page 315, that's the procedure. Whether you're working on a single phase or 3-phase, that's it, verbatim. Write it out, say it, do it. Remember, safe isolation procedure, the correct procedure. Not what might happen. Okay, there's no shortcuts here. It's the proper procedure, but needs to be evidenced here. 1.4, evaluate procedures, appropriate methods to ensure the safety of people. Again, it's doing the risk assessment and making that strong statement in this particular evidence that you're submitting, that you've carried out the risk assessment, and that you're going to have to notify other building users if there's anyone else in there, okay, of any hazards that might occur. And we can think of the insulation resistance test as well, and precautions we need to take whilst that's going on. So when we get in the carry out fault diagnosis, 2.1, communicate effectively, okay, to ascertain the nature of the fault. So it's what we would do if we do have customers and clients. It's taking the time to speak with them to identify the history of the fault and communicating that into your job write-up or your video, whatever it is you're presenting here. Okay, 2.2, select and interpret the appropriate documents, layout drawings, which relate to the systems that you're working on. So if they've got any previous old test certificates, you should be asking for them. Any drawings or electrical drawings relevant to that installation, ask for them. You as the tester, you'd want all of that information because that would be relevant and appropriate. So you've got yourself, you've spoken with people to ascertain the nature of the fault, you've got any relevant supporting documents, you're ensuring that you're making those statements into this submission, because the assessor won't know unless you've said it, written about it, videoed it. It's got to be there and it's got to be clear that you've done that. And now you're communicate disruption, because through the nature of the fault finding, one might have to have power off. You're not just going to do it, you're going to communicate, okay, that disruption with other building users. So that might just be a verbal chat, whatever it was. Again, ensure it's within your evidence that you're submitting. Okay, and it says there 2.3a and b, it says communicate disruption to other workers and colleagues and customers and clients. This is going to be the building users. So 2.4, 2.5, so we're going to carry out the relevant inspections, analyse findings. So we're not going to revisit here in this unit all of the inspection and testing, learning that's taken place over the course of your apprenticeship, but you're going to need to do what you need to do to identify the fault here. And the test instruments you're going to use, again, a strong statement or possibly a picture. Show the calibration certificate. If it's there, take a picture, or ensure that you say that it is calibrated and within date. Then perform the suitable diagnostic tests based on your decision. So again, this is about you demonstrating your competency in your testing. Perform the suitable diagnostic tests based on your engineering decision. Can't talk to you about it, don't know what the situation it is you're going to face, but explain it with enough detail to your assessor. And when you're performing those tests, we're looking at now 2.6a. It wants 3 from the list: loss of supply, overload, all the way through from 2.6a down to 2.6i. Again, if you're carrying out the diagnostic tests, there's an assumption here that you are familiar and you're competent with the types of fault that can occur. If there's anything you're not familiar with, it's probably at this present moment in time, are you suitably trained to be able to carry out this function? But you only need 3. Now it could be that it's going to, you're on a job and there's a series of faults and you can get 3 or more. Remember, this is going to be, we need to see you fault find on 2 occasions. So it could be one type of fault on one job, or 4 types of fault on one job. We're still going to need another instance of you going out and fault finding. And then it says 2.7, use the appropriate methods for locating faults. Use a logical approach, safe working practices, and interpret your test readings. Use your appropriate instruments correctly to carry out fault diagnosis. So, again, explain the test instruments you're using. If you're using a multifunction tester, explain the correct test function you are selecting on that MFT device. The logical sequence will be appropriate to the type of situation you face, but when we think of the faults, you're going to carry out pretty much that logical sequence that you're doing in your commissioning of new circuits. It allows you to arrive at your decision about identifying the fault. And when it says use appropriate instruments correctly, we've got, you will have to demonstrate that you've used the voltage indicator 2.8 all the way through to 2.8H. If you think about it, if we're doing safe isolation, we're already using the voltage indicator, but there'll be test functions there or instruments there. You have to use at least 3 of those in this unit, and as with any list, okay, we need to see 2 occasions, but 3 from that list. Okay, so we identify the fault and then we carry out fault rectification, assess the repairs. So we identify the fault and we identify how we're going to remedy it, okay, what was going to be removed, replaced, and the implications with one of the following. 3.1, speak with the workers, colleagues, customers or clients. Again, that's pretty reflective of what's going to actually happen naturally in the environment that you're in anyway, but it does reflect the activity, doesn't it? You identify the fault, and if it does involve significant remedial work, well, you're not going to go ahead and do it, are you? You're naturally going to speak with your supervisor, speak with the customer client, okay, get their approval, or it might be that they have to schedule and you'll have to come back and carry out the remedy at a later date. But you've correctly identified the fault and you've put in place your remedy to repair that fault. And then it says 3.2, perform the fault correction, okay, and 3.3, using the appropriate tools, in 3.2, equipment and material. Again, it's just a brief overview of how that's remedied. 3.3, and making sure once you've carried out the remedy, again, we're going to assess and verify that the replacement components and equipment maintain ease of access to enable future maintenance, compliance with relevant regulations. So 3.3A down to C, compliance with manufacturer's instructions. Now, bearing in mind that you are training and to your current version of BS 7671, 18th edition as we speak now, we've got the Amendment 2 that's now published, so you'll work into the current regs. You're going to be doing that anyway, but make that statement, okay? That's what you're going to be doing, but don't leave it up to interpretation. Just say that I ensured that my repair ensured or give consideration to future maintenance, complied with the current regulations and with manufacturer's instructions. If indeed it's a component replacement, there'll be a manufacturer's instructions. Now 3.4. So if, as I mentioned earlier, if it can't be remedied instantly, you're not going to leave it unsafe. But 3.4, that's what it's about. Apply appropriate procedures to ensure electrical equipment and components are left safe if the fault can't be corrected immediately based on your technical assessment. So that could even be, okay, if you need out to go and get parts to carry out the repair, you're not going to leave it unsafe. You're going to apply the procedures to leave it safe whilst you go out. If you have to come back, you're going to ensure that you leave it safe. So say it, write about it, make that clear in your submission. Once you've carried out the repair, 3.5, perform the appropriate inspection and testing procedure to confirm that it's all functioning correctly, that you've carried out the fault correction work correctly. So whatever appropriate test, okay, and it may well be appropriate here. We've made an alteration or maybe an addition if we needed to make that fault repair, that we can issue a minor works. And that would be great if you did that, because that's evidence of the fault taking place and being remedied correctly, because you issue a compliant minor works certificate. And then if you've done that, you've done 3.6, record the test results and appropriate information regarding the fault correction clearly and accurately and report it to the relevant people. Well, it could be that the issue of the minor works will be sufficient. If the minor works aren't required, okay, then an opportunity for you to make a short handwritten or types or email report to the appropriate person and attach that in your submission here. And you've only got to report it to one of the following: your work colleagues, customers or clients, or a representative of another service. So it's just one of those people that you should communicate the fault correction to. And that's it. That's unit 115. So any feedback is welcomed. Leave comments if you're watching this online. You might have watched some of the others, or you might have come straight into this. I know what it's like when you're learning. You'll take any available source of information if you think it's going to help. The idea of doing these is I'm just trying to offer help and support to apprentices. And indeed, as this is the final in the 6 that I've done, I find that some apprentices, well, they say to me, I can do it, I just don't know what it is that people want me to say to evidence it. It's taking away the uncertainty around what it is by me producing these short presentations. And it doesn't matter which format you use. Clearly, if you're not working on an online portfolio, it's probably going to be a written workplace logbook that you'll be completing. But if it is online, you can use many other different types of format. I've got apprentices now who submit videos and audio recordings, and we can have discussions about how we evidence into their portfolios. There's more options there. So some of these slides have been entitled job write-ups, which suggests that it's about writing your evidence up. But you can see that there's opportunities to produce other types of evidence. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as it meets the criteria. It's strong, it's robust. The assessor can easily identify that it's you carrying out the work. That's important. But good luck. Good luck on your apprenticeship journey. And this unit, along with 113, we're now talking about approaching our endpoint, our gateway, ready for your endpoint assessment. So, and if that's the case, if you've come to this one last, good luck in your apprenticeship journey. Hopefully it's over soon. you'll have passed. You have a good AM2S, and good luck with your careers.